Close your eyes. Focus. Listen to work getting done with Monday.com. Relax as AI does the manual work, while your teams are aligned on a single source of truth. Feel the sensation of an AI work platform, so flexible and intuitive, it feels like it was built just for you. Notice you're limitless. Now open your eyes, go to Monday.com, start for free, and finally, breathe.
From Estero, Florida, this is the One Extraordinary Marriage Show, where being busy is overdone, romancing is fun, and scheduling sex has taken the guesswork out of wondering when you're going to get some. Creators of the 6 Pillars of Intimacy, I'm Tony DiLorenzo, your co-host, along with my beautiful wife, Elisa. From coast to coast and around the world, thank you for joining us. It's time to talk sex, love, and commitment. Give us a call or text us on the HUG hotline at 858-876-5663, or send us an email to hugs@oneextraordinarymarriage.com. In today's episode, we're talking about the truth about marriage today. Not the filtered version, not the highlight reel, and not the crisis headline, but what's actually happening inside real marriages right now.
And there's an anonymous quote that says, "Love doesn't die from a lack of affection. It dies from a lack of attention." And that's going to tie into today's episode. But first, we start every episode with a hug, and this 900th episode is no different. This hug comes from a comment, from an email, actually, that was from a longtime member of the One family that said, "Our marriage still is because of the One Extraordinary Marriage Show and the practical approach Tony and Elisa always bring. We'll celebrate 46 years this year, and more than ever, believe the best is yet to be. We work to improve from continuing knowledge gained from intimacy mastery, podcasts, books, and facilitating this material with marriages while leading small groups ourselves. We're always working to elevate our extraordinary marriage, and we can because of the tools gathered over the past 7 years. We take seriously the mindset of what can I do? Intentionality and action are words spoken regularly by Tony and Elisa, and it's because that's how change happens." So amazing.
Wow. It's truly a blessing. And we know this couple personally, and it's amazing to see what has happened in their lives. And I just want to make sure you caught this. They're celebrating 46 years. They found the One Extraordinary Marriage Show 7 years ago. That was at year 39. And if they can do what they have done, I know that many of us can do similar, if not more, in our own marriages to create that extraordinary we desire. So it's just an honor and a blessing. Obviously, we're celebrating the 900th episode.
Happy 900!
Happy 900 to you, my beautiful. It's amazing to be here today. We just celebrated our 16th anniversary in January, 900th episode right here.
In February.
And so, first and foremost, none of this, again, would be possible without you, the One family. It's truly you who keep us behind these microphones, allow us to look at marriages. You guys talk back to us. That's where most of these podcasts come from now. The episodes are from you guys. And so from myself and from Elisa, thank you. We're truly honored and blessed to have you part of the One family.
And, when we have these milestone shows, it's an opportunity for us to reflect. And around this one specifically, we got to talking about it. We're like, what does this look like? 900 years.
No, we're not.
Some days it feels that way.
We're not in Old Testament.
Times. This is not Old Testament times, but okay. Over all of this period of time, and we didn't, you can look at the headlines and you can look at the research studies, but really, like, what's happened in the One family, and what's happening with the marriage conversations, from where we were to where we are now. You think about social media 900 episodes ago, like. Really? Was it even, in 2010? Or if we even go back 10 years in 2016? Like
2010, we were doing some stuff on Facebook. That's when Facebook was fun. People would post their cats and food. 10 years ago.
Some food.
Truthfully.
True. Vacations.
It's not the wackiness that it can be now.
Yeah.
And I'm still on it because we have different groups and I'm still talking to friends and all that sort of stuff there as well. 10 years ago, I think we were more so into it. I will say I think the biggest change came 5, now almost 6 years ago when the pandemic hit. And I think that's where we saw a big change happening, not only in our own marriage, but marriages in the one family and around the world.
And, so you've got social media, you've got a lot of cultural noise, you've got all of these different inputs that have really, if you look over the last 10 years, but specifically, like Tony said, over the last 5, have really just changed dynamics. And, started reflecting on the marriages that I've had the privilege to work on over the last 14 years. And I think what's really important, and it's so important when we talk about something that's a state of our marriage or a state of marriage, specifically in the one family, is that there's no question that couples love one another. Like I see it, so often, even when I'm coaching a couple, I'm like, tell me your love story. And when they start telling me their love story, and I know you guys have heard this before, like I see the spark. And I'm like, okay, there's still something that we can work with, right? But there is a fatigue that is so prevalent right now. People are tired. And not tired of their spouse, but people are tired. And it shows up when we asked recently on Instagram stories, how would you describe the state of your marriage right now? And, 41% said stable but routine.
I would call that plateau. In my mind, I would say they've plateaued or they're sort of in roommate syndrome. Yes?
That's like, we're good.
Yeah, but
we're good. Like it's stable, but like things are routine.
Yeah, and I think some people would almost equate that to we're just roommates. We're just doing our
thing. We do our thing.
Yeah.
11% said drifting. 14% said struggling a lot. So only 34% of you said strong and connected. So for a lot of you, there is this place of just quiet disconnection. Right? That you're in this drift, like you're functioning, you're doing life. Like, you can go out to dinner and you can, take a trip together and do things like that. But it's not in that like, hey, we're strong and feeling really connected. And so I asked a follow-up question, what feels harder today than it did 10 years ago? Because, this causes, I think of where we were, 10 years ago. Look at Tony, he's like, 10 years ago.
Well, yeah, I'm just thinking age of the children. We're 13 and 10.
Right.
Yeah, it was tough.
And we were, for us, and we'll get into this, so I'm going to give you a little time to think. I'm going to share other people's answers so you can think about where we were when the kids were 13 and 10. But there were a lot of honest answers that came through. What's changed? Well, now we're doing, or what feels harder? Well, doing marriage completely exhausted and drained. What's harder? Making time for sexual intimacy. Finding something to talk about, the constant frustration, finding a balance between spouse, work, and home duties, aging. Yeah, hear you on that one. Lack of energy, using the time that we have for actual connection. And I get it, because like Tony said, 10 years ago for us, the kids were 10 and 13. Our lives had a different structure and rhythm to them. Have you had some time to think about life 10 years ago?
Oh, yeah. Well, 13, Alex was 13 at the time, so 8th grade. Spring, I'm just trying to think of where.
It would have been a spring lacrosse season.
Yeah, it would have been a spring lacrosse season. We would have just come off of a very long, because he was YFL back then. They'd won the city championship, so all the practices, all the games, Saturdays up early, sometimes driving or even late games.
But what's harder?
What feels
harder today than it did 10 years ago?
What today?
Yes.
What feels harder today?
That was the question. Like now that you've had to reflect, what's harder today?
I don't think there is. I think we went through the hard stuff.
And it's okay. Like
10 years ago, we went through the hard stuff. Today, the hard part is raising adult children who are in our home. And I think what's harder now, and you and I have said this many a times as parents, and in looking at our own lives, at 23, I was married.
Yes, you were. To me.
To you. At 23, we were we were doing everything we could to just make money and make life happen.
Yes.
And so what's harder for me now is trying to express that upon my children, how well they do have it, where they aren't scraping by. They're not having to live in an apartment in desert. Well, we lived in Palm Desert at the time.
Desert. We never lived in Desert Hot Springs.
No, Palm Desert. In the middle of summer, newlyweds, without enough money to turn on the AC when it's 115 degrees outside. Where here in Southwest Florida, our AC is running almost 24/7, 365 days a week or a year. Oh, man, I'm off this morning. But we've been able to turn it off a little bit in the most recent past because of all the cold weather we've had this year. But what's harder is trying to express upon the children, like, you got to grow up. And I think that causes tension in between you and I, because one of the things that, that frustrates the living tar out of me is our children can leave a mess in the kitchen and there are no consequences. And where I'm like, it can stay there. You are very much like, well, I'm going to wash it. And there are definitely times, even last night, where I was frustrated with you. And I think I had just some words for you before coming to bed about, like, let them do it.
He did have words for me, but he was in the bedroom and I was in the kitchen with the water on. So I know that he said something, but I didn't acknowledge it.
But this causes cracks in our emotional intimacy. It can cause cracks in our sexual intimacy at times because these are problems in our life right now. I'm not saying that they're hard, but it's just, it creates that tension between you and I that if the children weren't here would not be happening.
We had a glimpse of that on Valentine's.
Which was wonderful.
It was epic. But I think what you highlight is that there are different seasons of marriage where the challenge, like there's no season of marriage that is completely challenge free. It's kind of like parenting, right? Like every season has its own challenges. And so when we look at the state of marriage today, and you may have littles like we did 20 years ago. You may have those middle school and high schoolers like we did 10 years ago. You may be completely empty nest and just be like, Tony and Lisa, like life is good. But there are still connection challenges. There are still intimacy challenges.
Believe me, because we live where we live, I talk to a number of folks in our community who are empty nesters. Their children
I'm not even talking children, like, because there are a lot of like older couples who still have connection issues because they're just not spending time together.
True.
So I don't want to just make this a parenting thing in terms of that's the cause of the disconnect.
No,
or that's the cause of the challenge, or that's why life feels harder right now. I think it's, when you hear this next question I'm going to share with you, you start to see it's not just about the kids, because the last question I asked was, when you think about your marriage, what area requires the most intentional effort right now? Right? So just think about that. Like, think about your own marriage, whether you're driving in the car or you're, riding on your bike or you're mowing the lawn or, out for a run. What area of your marriage requires the most intentional effort? And 43% of the respondents said sexual intimacy. 32% said emotional connection. 18% said time together.
Or recreational
intimacy. And 7% said finances. And so it's really interesting because I think, and this is so important, and I've seen it in so many marriages, we've experienced it in our own marriage, that when exhaustion shows up, there are two areas that tend to fall off. Right? Sexual intimacy and emotional intimacy. I'm too tired to have sex. I'm too tired. Like I'm exhausted. I can't have a conversation. Right? We see this pattern.
Or even with the conversation side of things, and I just want to say this, is it's not that we're too tired. I think we get to a spot where we don't know what to talk about. Everything is the logistics. Been there, done that.
Right.
Still can get into that. And there's also the tension between, we have things to talk about, like we need to talk about our finances maybe, and yet neither one of us are willing to bring it up.
Because it's not just enough to want to. It's, because that's the desire part. Like, oh, I want to do this. I want to be sexually intimate. I want to have a conversation. I want to talk about our finances. I want to spend time with you. Versus, so there can be desire to do something, but what's the effort? right? If I have to make an effort, then does that mean that there's something wrong with us? Does that mean that, I've got this story going through my head that we shouldn't have to work so hard? Or, well, back 10, 20 years ago, it used to be easier. Why is it harder now? And I just want to say there are a lot of things fighting for attention and your attention right now. And they are all energy sucks. Like, I'm just going to put, like, whether it's obligation, volunteer obligations, whether it's video games, whether it's, hobbies that you're doing, whatever it might be, social media, TV, whatever. There are a lot of things that draw your attention and your effort away from your spouse. And I really feel like even in our marriage and like that intentionality, like when it starts to slip, and we have to hold ourselves accountable too, guys. This is not just, Tony and Lisa being like, well, you all need to be intentional because we've got it figured out. No, this is still all these years later, being in a place of having to be intentional, because when we start to lose energy, we lose our connection. And we're going to talk about that after this break.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states or situations.
This podcast is supported by MIDI Health. Are you in midlife? Feeling dismissed, unheard, or just plain tired of the old healthcare system? You're not alone. In fact, even today, 75% of women seeking care for menopause and perimenopause issues are left entirely untreated. But it's time for a change. It's time for MIDI. MIDI's not just a healthcare provider. It's a women's telehealth clinic founded and supported by world-class leaders in women's health. Their clinicians provide one-on-one, face-to-face consultations where they truly listen to your unique needs. They offer a full range of holistic, data-driven solutions that isn't one-size-fits-all care. This is care uniquely tailored for you. At MIDI, you will find that their mission is clear: to help all women thrive in midlife, giving them access to the healthcare they deserve. Because they believe midlife isn't the middle at all. It is the beginning of your second act. Ready to feel your best and write your second act script? Visit joinmidi.com today to book your personalized, insurance-covered virtual visit. That's joinmidi.com. MIDI, the care women deserve.
We're back, and we're discussing what to do when your marriage isn't in crisis, but you kind of been running on fumes, right? Where you're just sort of like Tony said, stable but routine kind of feels like, good roommates. Right? Or there's a little bit of drift and you're kind of like, I know I asked you to look back 10 years, but don't live there. Right? Don't compare your body to what it was 10 years ago, because I will tell you my body had a whole lot less aches and pains.
That's a hard one.
But you can't.
I know you can't. It's still a hard one.
Then you have to do business with that, with those thoughts.
No, I get it. And yet, when your body isn't responding the way it did 10 years ago, it can be frustrating. And we've done many of episodes talking about testosterone. We've talked about supplementation. We've talked about hormone replacement. A myriad of things we've talked about. We live in an age where medicine and medical devices are better than they were 10, 20, 30 years ago. I mean, it's unbelievable, right?
What's possible.
And yet there's still hurts, there's still pains, there's still things that come up where you're like, geez, man, like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I didn't feel those things.
I slept through the night.
I slept through the night, which was amazing. I'm in my 30s. I remember even my 40s, I remember just sleeping so well. Like, I remember us just being able to cuddle, like no pain.
No hot flashes.
Nothing. I mean, we used to just cuddle like there was no tomorrow. I can't remember the last time you and I cuddled. Literally, I cannot remember. I mean, I got golfer's elbow going on. Your shoulder hurts you. I'm getting up to go to the bathroom. If I touch you, something happens. You know what I mean? And
Oh
so
my gosh.
I totally hear you. You cannot compare.
Well, let me rephrase that. It's not so much not comparing. I don't think you can stay in the past.
No, I
And
agree
I think that's
with
a
you on
better
that.
way to say that. Like, don't stay in the past. Don't keep looking at that 10-year younger body. And
Let's put it
like
this
you
way.
acknowledge it.
Yeah, let's put it this way. Your high school years weren't your best years. You can't look back in your 30s, 40s, and 50s and go, man, my high school years were the
Or
best.
college,
or my
or
college years were the best years of my life. They were great years. And yet where you are right now is even greater. You got more wisdom. You got more knowledge. You got more understanding of life and your marriage, your children. You're professionally probably at a stronger place, you know? And so I do agree with that. You can't look back and go, that was better.
Yeah, I mean, because comparisons, what do they say? Comparison is the thief of joy. Like, your responsibilities were different. You were in a different season of life, whether you had kids or you didn't have. Like there were a lot of things that were different 10 years ago, and it's like, well, what's happening now? Doesn't mean you're broken just because it was different 10 years later. It just means that your life has evolved and changed. Right. And it's having those conversations, it's having the conversations if desire differences, if we're talking about sexual intimacy, if that has changed, right? What does it look like to talk about it, to strategize around it, to, really be intentional about your sexual intimacy? Because just being intentional doesn't mean it's like, people get all weirded out when we talk about scheduling sex. And I'm like, look, that's not an inferior version of sex. Just because we have the intimacy lifestyle and we make sure that sexual intimacy is a priority. It doesn't make it less than. It just means that we recognize where we are in a season of marriage to say, hey, this is important and we're going to be intentional about it. I think it's also really important when you look at the state of our marriage and, evaluating the truth about marriage today is that, what are you doing to protect your energy and your time? Because I will tell you, a lot of people tell me they don't have time. I had this conversation the other day. Well, Elisa, we don't have time. And I say, well, tell me what you're doing outside of like work and your kids. Well, I serve here and he serves there and this and that. And well, at least we can't give that stuff up. And I'll tell you, you might be forced to make some really hard decisions if you continue to drain the energy. If you don't have time for one another. It's amazing what 10 or 15 minutes of intentional time, how that can change the state of your marriage, how it shifts the connection between the two of you, but you've got to be willing to give that time.
Yeah. Last night, Elisa and I, our church did a worship night as we step into the season of Lent, right? The 40 days before the resurrection of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. And there was a point where Elisa and I were looking at each other and like, do we really go? Like, we got all this stuff to go. We have right now over the next 6 weeks, we're not home a single weekend because of speaking, marriage getaway, speaking in Africa, which is all great things. And we are truly blessed to be able to come see you wherever you may be. We are so excited. And yet we're looking at our calendars and we're like, we're not going to be home for 6 weekends. And it could have been just as easy for us to just go, we're not going to go. It's okay. But you know what? I think for myself, and Elisa, you can share for yourself, I think my spiritual intimacy was strengthened last night. I mean,
100%.
It was so beautiful. It was just such an amazing worship time of being with you. And I was crying during it. I mean, it was just such an emotional experience, but just that holding your hand, being beside you. And yet we had to make the time to do it, had to get on our calendars. And then we had to be intentional. We had to say, yes, we're going to go. And then we had to take the action. We had to get in the car and make it over there. And it's not that far away, people. I'm just going to say it's not that far away from our home to our church. And yet there was many things that could have pulled us back and said, don't do it. And I'm glad we did do it.
And I think that's always, when you look about the truth of your marriage, our marriage, the marriages of people that it's always going to come down to where do you make your decisions? Like at the end of the day, extraordinary marriages are only extraordinary because there's been consistent, intentional action. This podcast, guys, the fact that we're behind the microphones for episode 900, many of you know the story. Tony was only going to get me to do 10 episodes. Why are we here for episode 900? Because we have been intentional about one thing since January of 2010, one conversation. And I want to highlight that. I know I've said it before and will continue to say it again. The most consistent, intentional action that Tony and I have taken since January 2010 is to have one conversation a week. One.
And there were many a years, and especially in the 200-300s, those were rough years. I mean, those were rough years. And when you think about 200-300, I mean, you're talking 4 years of time.
Yeah.
Where literally where we were with me running my other business, Elisa, stay-at-home mom, doing some direct sales stuff, other things going on in our lives. Literally, that podcast episode, that half an hour we took, and maybe some of them were longer back in the day,
probably
I forget.
longer.
And yet that time was our conversation. And it kept us connected. Even by a thread, it kept us connected. We may have gone out on a date here and there when we could. We did a few things like this, that, and the other. We were still living our intimacy lifestyle. But that 30 minutes once a week during that period really, I believe, is a catalyst to where we are now in our marriage.
So I want you to know this. When you think about your marriage, it's worth the effort. And wherever you are today, it's still possible to create extraordinary. It still is. It still is. We're living proof. You're living proof. And the marriages that you've impacted through sharing a podcast episode, through sharing 6 Pillars with them, through hosting 6 Pillars groups, your intentional actions are making a difference. And I want you to know that.
Yeah. You know, as you go off this week and you start thinking about it, what's the truth about your marriage? What's the truth about your marriage today? And as you listen to us share, what is it you need to think about? What is it that you need to do? Where is the disconnect and where can you reconnect? Look at your 6 pillars of intimacy: emotional, physical. Gosh, I just spaced them all right there. Emotional, physical, financial, spiritual, recreational, sexual. There we go. Which one of them do you need to reconnect on? Which one has the crack in it that you need to address, that you know you've been sort of just not talking about it, not bringing it up because it's just easier not to do it? Maybe this is a week where you go, you know, the truth about our marriage today is this, and one of us or both of us need to lean in and go, what are we doing about it? Know that you have 2 people here in Southwest Florida that are praying for you, that are believing with you, that are pressing in for you, because we know, and we have seen it many times, that when you get intentional and you do take action, you can have that extraordinary marriage you desire. So go do it. Go make it happen. And don't let a day go by where you don't tell somebody about it. Tell your love story to one another again. Tell your love story to somebody else who wants to hear it, who needs to hear it. Tell your children about it. Tell your neighbor about it. Get excited because that love for one another is there. And then, please, share your hug with us. We want to celebrate you here to others because your story matters. And I don't care what you've been through. You can share it. It's anonymous, but it can have such a profound effect and impact on others. You guys, have yourselves a fantastic week. Wouldn't be here 900 episodes later if it wasn't for you. So thank you very much. Love you guys.